Hello, welcome to another edition of Chris Speaks. I'm your host, Chris Thompson. Um, so I've already said before, the first thing I said was when Charlie Kirk got shot was that it was said that he got shot not because I like him. I really don't like him. I'll let you know how much I don't like him now. But I feel bad that he was shot. That's not the way to do it. You don't kill people. And this is another thing. This is what you do when you kill someone that's 31 like that. He, if you would have let him live his life out, he's still in the beginning of his life, pretty much. So there's a chance that he could have changed his ways if he was persuaded. Probably not, but you never know, because when what we want to do is we want to have dialogues with people that have different ideas of ours. With that being said, I'm fucking getting tired of all this shit of these supposed Christians that are like basically making Charlie Kirk into a saint. The guy was not a saint. He was a total piece of shit when it comes to his ideology and what he believed and what he thought. But this is not something that says, yeah, shoot him because of it. But he's not a good guy. He's not a saint. He's not this great martyr for Christianity. Well, which Christianity? What, Southern Bible Belt Christianity, which is kind of spreading like a virus all over this world? Um, I mean, what kind of Christians call for the the murder of all liberals because they thought a liberal um, killed Charlie Kirk? But it looks like, with more information coming out, that he's a right wing Donald Trump supporter and a Nick Fuentes fan, and he didn't like Charlie Kirk. It's not that he didn't like the racism of it, but he didn't like the anti-trans part. But I'm sure I've barely seen any Nick Fuentes, so I'm sure he's the same way where he's very anti-trans. But for some reason, this guy, who's probably a right winger, from the information we've gathered, when people say, "Well, but wasn't he in a relationship with a transgender person?" Well, yeah, but there's lots of trans Republicans. There's lots of gay Republicans. Lots of Republicans of every color. Like, you wouldn't even think that there'd be black MAGA people because most MAGA people don't like black people, but there are. And this is the thing. This is the kind of person that the great Charlie Kirk was. He basically said that Martin Luther King Jr. was a bad person. And he based this on a memo about a tape that never surfaced in an FBI file when the FBI was trying to find anything they could on Martin Luther King to shut him down because they didn't want people to desegregate. And so, yeah, you're going to use information that's most likely false, never used for anything, and not provable, and say, well, he's a terrible person. Well, let's see why he really thinks he's a terrible person. The color of his skin, for one thing, because he also said that the Charlie Kirk also said that, hold on, what am I trying to find? Um, oh, that it was the civil rights movement and the civil rights act were a mistake, and that it was better off when basically during Jim Crow, where I mean, but this era he's saying is so much better. What, when you fucking hang black people from a tree for looking at a white woman the wrong way? I mean, that's horseshit. These guys are trying to take us back to the fucking good old days, or I should say the good old boy days. The, it's ridiculous. I mean, and it's been fueled by Trump. It's going back even before Trump ran the first time. It goes back to when Obama was running and Trump was coming, spreading all these conspiracy theories like uh, Obama wasn't born in this country. He wasn't a natural born citizen. The funny thing is that even later on when they tried to get the Republicans tried to get Ted Ted Cruz to run, who was Cuban. They were wanting to change the law, but back when Obama, who is born in the United States, was president, it didn't. Well, I think he was. No, I get that wrong. Ted Cruz was a natural born citizen because one of his parents was a American citizen at the time. But that was the thing. Okay, I'm sorry that I got off on the wrong track there. My brain doesn't always remember things completely correctly. So what was it saying? Oh yeah, well they found out that all you needed was one American parent to be a natural born citizen, no matter where you're born in the world. So, um, so but these were the same people going back that's saying, oh no, well Obama wasn't born in the country, and then you find out yes he was born in the country, and he released the birth certificate. They didn't believe it. The freaking where was it? Hawaii even released where he was born, which is in the part of the United States. Even released his long form birth certificate to prove him wrong, and they still didn't believe him. But that's what I'm saying. This racism and this stuff from Donald Trump goes back a few years before he even ran for president. Okay, and this is where all this rhetoric is coming from. And there's all this violence on the left, and there's always been, I mean, right, excuse me. The violence is mostly on the right. There's some left wing political violence, but it's mostly on the right, and statistics will prove this. So I don't have the numbers or whatever, but you can look them up. You can find them. The whole thing though is that this is what, okay, you're making him a saint. This racist guy, this guy who said one time, and I've seen the video. I've seen him say that he said if I get on a plane and I find out that the pilot is black, then I'm worried of whether he's qualified. Are you freaking kidding me? You don't think they would train a person? But it's not the training he's worried about. He's worried that or any of the background, he worries he's not qualified because he doesn't like black people. He didn't like black people, is what I should say. He doesn't exist anymore. But and and the violence shit is never the way to do things. We need to open up a dialogue. We do need to open up a dialogue, but we don't need to sugarcoat and whitewash shit with the dialogue. The dialogue is there's a lot of bad people on the right nowadays, way more than there used to be. Like the Republican Party used to be more selfish than anything, and they've always kind of lied as long as um, re- Republicans were all conservatives. So they didn't used to be. At one time, they were both conservative and liberal, and so they weren't a party of one. This is the problem: is that we've gotten these polarized two parties um, where everybody's either conservative or everybody's liberal. So we don't get a balance, which wouldn't help nowadays because the 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 way the conservatives think and how prominent conservatives, whether they people that are known, people that are well known, that talk to like the alt right people, that people on the alt right listen to, like oh this who's this Dingleberry that lives here in Texas, that guy who has the the show, that stupid show, it's where it's all conspiracy theories, and he's like this guy with a voice like this. I just can't remember his name right now, but it was him. It was one guy, the Banyan guy, Banyan who started. Banyan was the one of the founders of Breitbart, which is like conservative, like white supremacist stuff. But these guys have followings, and on their followings, they're saying that they're declaring war on all liberals. They're going to kill liberals. They're going to get back at them. They're going to go home to house and just shoot everybody. And then because they thought it was a liberal, but then again, it turns out that it looks like it's a conservative. It looks like I've seen information, and and I'm not 100% sure because we're working on fumes here, man. We're not getting many facts, so we know that, but it does look like most likely he's a conservative, and so because so what a conservative guy did when you thought he was a liberal, you were gonna murder us all. Like, is this the world we live in right now? And I don't want to live in the world where anybody's killing anybody for political views or whatever. What? How about you use your brain? How about we communicate? How about we try to get through to these people? Sometimes they won't, and sometimes it'll descend into name calling, and sometimes we, the people on the left, we usually try to keep our shit together, but some of us can't. Not pointing any fingers. This guy right here. Oh my god! Like, well, I can, but it depends on. I get very. It's not even angry. I say passionate, and um, so I don't always sound like the nicest person. I kind of sound like I'm rah rah rah, but I'm not really. But oh, what was my point? I went off on a tangent. The whole point is that we try to be civil. The people on the left usually try to be civil, but the people on the right nowadays, the MAGA conservatives, a big chunk of them, I'm not going to say it's all of them because that's generalizing, but there's a big chunk of MAGA Republicans that they're ready to fucking just like shoot people. Like, I remember there was this guy, and it's because of, and this makes sense because this guy who listened to Nick Fuentes. I remember there was it was like a year or two ago, going back, and there's this guy that came out and asked him because, these are the kind of people that listen to Nick Fuentes of when can we start shooting people? I can't wait till we start shooting people. And he's like, maybe we shouldn't shoot people, but they're fueled by his racism and all that stuff he says, the bad things he says against liberals, these people, when they're just spewing hate, and it's kind of sad that when hate is spreading to the mainstream of Christianity, and this isn't even talking about, like, okay, we know the majority of Christians still think being gay or being trans or whatever is wrong. Okay, I still disagree with that. I think that doesn't have to be part of it. It's like the Bible condoned slavery, but we got to a point where we decided that even though the Bible condoned slavery, we're not going to condone slavery, and we're not going to say, oh well, that's the Bible says so, so it's good. No, we're not. So using stuff that the people are hating them for because of Bible this and that. Well, we can stop following stuff in our religion if our religion is wrong, if we find that our religion is immoral. And mainly, a lot of it's because a lot of these books, especially of the Bible, were written a long time ago. And basically, the world was more like it is today. Just, I mean, because men still run everything, right? Men still run everything, and there's still men that look down on women like they're not capable of a lot of the things we are. So we're kind of like going back. We're kind of taking this racist, sexist, anti LGBT stuff, going like back to the 40s and 50s and stuff again. And like, this is insane. Why is it becoming like this? Why are people that think they're good Christians, and some of them might be, are all of a sudden they're being influenced by these people that aren't good. They're being influenced by the same type of Christians that used to wear bed sheets around to scare people. So and they did more than scare people. They killed people, and they threatened people, and they burned crosses on the things of um, the yards of black people, and that's where we're kind of going back to, and it's really sad. And the thing is, people say, well, it's not all Trump. No, it's not all Trump's fault, but because what really started making the races vocal was when Obama became president. Like these white Southern racist people couldn't handle the fact that there not only was there a black man who was president, there was a black man who was smarter than them who was president. So that's really when we started getting like it's not so much that it regressed or that there were any less racist before that. It's just they became vocal after this. They became brave, and now it's completely engulfed um, a big portion of the Republican Party. We can't descend into these things. And here's another thing: you're calling for a civil war. Well, we already had a civil war with the white races, Southerners, and you guys lost. That's why you're still part of the United States. You lost the war. We can win. We don't want to have a nobody want nobody in their right mind. So a lot of these people, how are you out of your mind that you want to start a civil war, but you really think you're gonna win? The majority of people would be on the other side, and this is just we can't we can't sit here and just let them put these guys up in on um, things, pictures of him by Martin, alongside Martin Luther King and other civil rights people that he couldn't stand. I saw a black man, supposedly Christian, compare talking about him, but bringing up Martin Luther King and when he got shot and blah blah blah, and this guy's praising Charlie Kirk, and I'm sitting there. It's like, how can you compare him to Martin Luther King when Martin Luther King fought for your rights? This guy's fighting against your rights. This guy doesn't like you. So why are you in a black guy who likes white supremacist ideology? That's freaking weird. And where in the Bible does Jesus um, preach white supremacy? Trick question. He doesn't, because Jesus wasn't white. Jesus was a Palestinian Jew, the first century Palestinian Jew. He's not like you. He's not white, so he would not be for white supremacy. He would not be. I don't understand. If you're Christian, if you're Christians, why are you calling for bloodshed? Well, I mean, because you're the same type of Christian that used to exist when the that started the Civil War and started the Civil War, started Jim Crow, started all this racist shit. So we don't need people. Remember, there were in the '60s, there were '50s and '60s, there were good Christian men, white men who believed they were good Christians who blew up black churches, killing children a lot of the time. And this is the kind of crap we're gonna end up getting back to if we're not careful. And what we should do, instead of shooting at debate bros um, who are popular, how about we debate the debate bros, and we debate them and we call their mom their shit, and we let them know that we're tired of their half truths and their partial lies. They're taking things out of context to try to make you think that people that don't look like you or act like you or love like you are the enemy and they need to be eliminated. I mean, we've had them try to blame everything on trans people, and that's another breakthrough in this case is that okay, the guy who's most likely conservative but a person, a gay person, because he was in a relationship with a man that was in transition to being a trans woman. So we know he obviously isn't anti-gay or anti-trans. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, he's not anti-trans, obviously, but yeah. So what was my point? My point was that, oh, they're always like, it's trans do it, trans do it. Well, his partner, because I guess they were a couple, the trans guy did everything. Excuse me, the trans woman. Sorry, I'm trying to I'm trying to get my vocabulary correct and stuff because man, I grew up in a very homophobic time, so I'm trying to reprogram my brain to not think in those ways. It's like how some people are like they don't mean to say things that are racist, but because the only information they get is from movies and stuff that make it seem like black people are bad. Well, it's the same with people who think if they think certain people are bad and they don't know those people, they find those people scary. And this is the thing. This is why this separation, this thing of hating anybody for anything that isn't the content of their character. I don't like Charlie Kirk not because he's a good Christian, because he wasn't. I don't like Charlie Kirk because he was. I don't dislike Charlie Kirk be, because for any reason except the fact that he's wrong about most of what he's saying, and what he's saying is hateful. It's hateful, and he fucking covers it under a veil of Christianity that should make true Christians or anybody who is raised on actual Christian values sick. Sick. How do they get, we're gonna murder all liberals from turn the other cheek? Turn the other cheek doesn't mean turn the other cheek and pull out a gun and shoot them. So So this idea that Christians want revenge, well, that's crazy. That's like a Jedi wanting revenge. A true Jedi wouldn't want revenge. The original title for Return of the Jedi was the working title was Revenge of the Jedi, but someone pointed out to um, George Lucas that hey, well, Jedi's don't get revenge, so they turned it to Return of the Jedi, and they kind of used that title for episode 3, and it was Revenge of the Sith. Well, Sith definitely get revenge, so that's their thing. It's kind of like that. If you're a Christian and you want to kill people and you want revenge and you want vengeance, then you're not a Christian. I mean, we if you're Christian, the Old Testament doesn't override Jesus. Jesus is your highest person you worship, or at least close to the he's the Son of God or whatever you want to believe him. But he completely speaks about nonviolence and how to open up dialogues with people. He would go around and he would talk to people, and there'd be haters. There were the haters that they wanted to stone Jesus to death. And that's when Jesus did the thing of, well, okay, let he who is free of sin cast the first stone. And they were like astounded because he called them on their hypocritical shit. And I'm going to call people who think they're good Christians and who also think um, Charlie Kirk was the poster boy for a good Christian. He went around debating people, but he went around to colleges to where he could get his message to kids who've just gotten out of high school to try to bend them to their propaganda, his propaganda, or the other guys like him. Just they're putting this propaganda out there, and they're acting like they're trying to do a dialogue to help people, but they're doing a dialogue because they're trying. I would like to see some of these debate bros actually debate college professors instead of college students that may have, or at least if they're going to be students, let them be graduate students. So, like, how about not debating people that aren't on your level? How about you debate people that are either on your level or above your level? Because that's what debates are about. That's what real debates are. And I've seen it on the left too. And uh, don't get me wrong. Like there's this guy who he interviews MAGA guys, and he basically once he pulls apart their arguments one piece at a time. But that's all he does. That's all he does. And I'm sure because I'm not stupid. I mean, I'd like to think that um, his like that he's saying that because there might be. I bet you there's probably been people that have called him that were Trump supporters that were not stupid, but I'm pretty sure he does the same thing that a lot of the conservatives do, which is they edit out the ones that don't fit their thing. I mean, sure, is he correct, mostly correct? But yeah, but don't be a one trick pony. All I do is interview the dumbest people I can find that support Trump. Because I'm sure there's people that support him that aren't completely and totally stupid. Um, I know I've met somebody in my neighborhood who my apartment's neighborhood, and he had uh, he was a gay man, and he voted for Trump for business reasons. So like for money, because like that's been a traditional thing at least since like I've known about Republicans is that it's a money thing. A lot of people who are rich or have businesses um, will be like, um, oh, what was my point? I'm totally losing my train of thought here. Oh, my point is that not everybody who votes for Trump, because he gets some of the people who, like the people who were always going to vote Republican, are always going to vote Republican. You know, the hardcore people, like the hardcore Democrats. I've known there's hardcore Democrats that you can't tell them anything bad about the people they voted for. They're in a lot of ways they're like the right is, with the where you get the hardcore people on the left, and it's like you can't point out what these people what they did wrong, or they'll be pissed off at you. But this is the thing. I mean, I've never really been a, a Democrat. I'm a liberal, yes, but I'm more of a progressive. Um, I didn't know what progressive was for a long time, but I've always been more on the liberal side. But I didn't never like the mainstream. Um, I never liked mainstream politics because neither the Republican or Democratic Party have my best interests in their heads. They care about both sides only care about campaign donations. There's some people like Bernie Sanders is an amazing person. That guy knows what he's talking about, and he's a good guy. And he got shit on by his own party, who when he was running for the primary, they all came out and said how horrible Bernie was because he was a socialist. Well, he's a democratic socialist. Democratic socialism isn't even socialism. It's actually um, a form of capitalism with social programs. So he's not even a socialist. And there are all these people calling socialists and communists. But if you look at Bernie's voting record, he never shit on anybody, man. Bernie's always done his best to try to help do what his constituents voted for him to do. And you can't find that very much on either side, the right or the left. So I've always been a independent person. I'm more of a Green Party person. Um, I think the first time I ever voted, I voted Green Party for Ralph Nader. And this is the thing, Ralph Nader, I voted for him because that guy, I knew a lot of people knew who he was because he was the guy he was a consumer advocate before he got more into politics, is that he was sticking up for um, the consumer. And it sucks that you can't really vote independent when it comes like to for like the um, especially like for like president and stuff. You're lucky in Congress, you might be able to get some people, but more on the lower end of things like local politicians, you're more likely to get more independence. But as far as the presidency goes, you can't they don't even let half of them vote on they can't even a lot of the independents can't even get on the damn ballot. And this is on the right and the left. And this is the thing is we can't stick to this two-party system anymore. It's ripping us apart. We need to we have too much consolidation of power, and it's always one side has complete control or the other side has complete control, and if neither side does, we can't get anything done. And I am going to point out that that's mostly because, and this is a thing that this goes before Trump. This was started kind of like in the Bush Jr. era. was that the uh, what is it? Okay, what was my point? I'm sure that a lot they're part of a portion of the Republican Party became really, really radical to the point of where we started having these government shutdowns because you'd have, and even times when, say, the Democrats were in charge of things in Congress. Well, freaking the Republicans would shut down the vote and basically leave the country defunded in order to try to push some of their um, policies they wanted. And we can't have these people anymore on either side that aren't don't have our best interests in mind. And when they do, they're communists or they're socialists or this and that. I mean, look at all the rhetoric going against Mondani, and a big point of that is not just because he's a democratic socialist, but the fact that he's brown skinned and he's a Muslim. He's of Indian descent, I believe, but I think his family comes from Uganda because I guess there's some like people of Indian descent living in Uganda. So you have this guy Mondani. He's from another country. He, but he's been here a long time because he has no accent and stuff like that. And there's people hating on him because of that, and hating on him because he was raised Muslim, and using all this hatred against him. And then they're gonna sit there and, oh, he's a socialist, he's a this and that. Well, people are. It looks like he's gonna win because his policies are popular. Maybe both the Democrats and the Republicans can learn from this that maybe you'll get elected more if your policies are good, not trying to play somewhere in the middle or whatever, or try to be more friendly to people that who are never going to vote for you. Um, but I mean, because this is the thing, okay? Usually you already got the votes from everyone who's like a hardcore Democrat or a hardcore Republican, right? You're always going to get those. The votes we always need to get are the swing votes. And there's a reason that the swing voters will go back and forth between Republican and Democrat. And the big reason is this: they they're spinning their wheels because they don't. It's like both sides will promise things, and then when it comes to it, they'll never stick to those promises. And sometimes they can't because their fellow politicians on whatever their political side is will basically railroad them and force them to play to play their game in order to get anything done. Or I mean, yeah, I haven't gone long this long in a long time, but I mean, this is I want to have a conversation about this. I want to have a conversation about the fact that we need to think strategically, and let's debate the debate boys. Let's debate the debate bros. Let's people who have knowledge in things point out the fact that people like what's his name again, Charlie Kirk, and people like um, the Fuentes guy, and who's the other guy, the guy who's more popular than them, the Jewish guy who's a total asshole, Ben Shapiro. People like him, they come up with they'll put things out there. They'll put out statistics, but the statistics will be wrong. They'll put out things, but they'll say something, but they won't say the whole thing. And they'll like one of the things, and this is what I'm gonna point out that I'm gonna debunk of Charlie Kirk. Okay, one of the things. Oh come on, he's got a lot of stuff I disagree with. So I'm trying to get back to what I was thinking of. So, oh yeah, he'll bring up the fact that there's more people in prison, and most of the people on, especially on the left and the more progressive side, are going to point out that the reason there's more people in prison that are black, not because they commit more crimes, but they're more likely to be punished for the crimes, and sometimes they're most likely to be punished for someone else's crimes because A lot of people, even the LA Police Department, people in cities that are more progressive, you still have like the worst. The LA Police Department, they're better than they used to be, but they are the most racist. New York's second to them. New York City's second to them. And it's weird that these liberal cities have these really conservative cops that are very prejudiced and very like they're assholes. And this isn't everywhere. Like where I live now, the cops out here are pretty cool. But I used to live in a, a very poverty stricken area. Like I wasn't growing up. We weren't really poverty stricken. We like we didn't live in a bad neighborhood, but the bad neighborhoods were like all around us, right? So, and this is there was more crime because there was more poverty, and that's where you get some of these things. Like even if it was true that black people committed more crime than white people, which they don't, they don't at a flat rate. Like there's no way possibly that you would think that they commit more crimes than white people just per capita. Wait, I don't know if I'm using per capita right. I might be using it wrong. I might have it backwards. But anyways, percentage wise, they don't even commit more crimes in comparison to white people, and so therefore, there's no way in hell they could actually commit more crimes than white people on a flat rate. But he's wrong. He's the reason they're in jail more than white people is not because uh, they commit more crimes, but because the system is still racist. The system is still against them. This the system is still going by the the what the wonderful Bill Clinton did. Okay, I used to think growing up, I thought Bill Clinton was this liberal. That guy was the most conservative liberal on the face of the planet, man. He signed, and this is where this systemic racism. Okay, it was always there, but this like really cemented it in our time was that, and this is how cops are still getting trained a lot of places is the crime bill said black people were bad simply for the fact of being black, that their race was more violent. That sounds kind of like some Nazi eugenic bullshit to me. And the thing is if there's places where some black neighborhoods might have more crime than other white neighborhoods is because there's more poverty. It's just like you're gonna get more crime from white guys in white areas or even mixed race areas. You're gonna get guys who are even like white guys who are they're I don't know, man. People, I don't understand. I so because where I grew up, everybody lived in the same neighborhoods. We didn't have this thing where they have, especially like back east and other places where you got white neighborhoods and black neighborhoods and Mexican neighborhoods and even with night white neighborhoods, you'll still have the Irish neighborhood and you'll have the Italian neighborhood and this and that. And like, no matter where you go, you get your ass kicked on your way one way and you get your ass kicked on your way back. It's not like that. I'm not used to that. I've grown up in an area where everybody's in everybody else's neighborhoods. And for the most part, I mean, sure, there's still a few racists in anywhere you're going to go because that's just, it's a virus and viruses spread. But if you grow up, this is why they need to integrate areas more. They need to help integrate um, communities more because it's beneficial. And people say, "Well, you said where you came from was crime ridden." Yes, because of the poverty. And that's the thing. And that's what, if you're going to try to say something's more and black people do something more, well, if you're going to talk about crime, you need to be honest and admit that it's poverty that adds to crime. And a lot of black people are in poverty, and it was designed that way. Once black people were no longer slaves, the white owners were pissed off, and the people racists got all rolled up, and they just they try to like talk people into their state of mind. And when people are integrated, when people live in vicinity of all different races, and they learn that everybody is the same, something that Charlie Kirk would say otherwise. So we've got this guy who's trying to say racist things, and tragically he got shot, and it looks like by one of his own, by one of his own Republicans. The real problem with politics is Republican on Republican violence. Them Republicans, they kill other Republicans, so it's Republican on Republican. This white on white violence. We really gotta watch out for that, because that's the thing. Because every race um, kills their own race more, and that's why this idea, and I think he's floated this idea too. This idea of, like, I don't know, this idea that we're not all alike because we look different and we come from different backgrounds, and this and that. Okay, we're not exactly alike, but a lot of ways, we're all the same. You see kids, no matter what color, no matter what race, no matter where they're from, what countries they come from. Kids are kids. Kids play, and kids will see. And if kids are allowed to um, evolve organically, where they aren't taught by parents and adults to think horrible, bigoted things, everybody will not everybody will get along more. A lot of it, because you'll find this a lot of the people, when okay, you pick whites who are racist. So a lot of the racist people, they if they're racist against blacks or Hispanics or whatever, it's because they don't know anybody. They don't know anybody who's black. They don't know anybody who's Hispanic or Jewish or this or that. And since they don't know anything but what they're raised and what they're taught, they see everyone else as an other. And nobody has profited off of this more than Donald Trump. Donald Trump got the even the first time, the reason he got elected was because he pointed out the other, the scary other, and it's all their fault for everything. This is the problem. This is why integration, we're not integrated. We say we have integration, but we don't really have integration. We don't have segregation anymore. We don't have forced segregation anymore. But we do have self segregation. We do have places where there's still 10 different neighborhoods for every race and nationality. And this can't be sustained, because all this sustains is this fear of the other. People are people are people. And stop hating. And that was the message of Jesus. The message of Jesus was, we're all alike no matter how different you think we are. Jesus was the original anti racist. He was the original male feminist. I mean, Jesus, if he existed, and we don't have any evidence, but this is the thing, it can't we might find it. There's obviously not going to be any evidence whether he was the son of God or not. Like, there's no evidence for something like that. You I'm sure, because there's things that they thought in history that they thought, okay, the New Testament got wrong. Like, they didn't think there were synagogues anywhere because they didn't have any mention of them. But there's a guy, they call him the real Indiana Jones, and went on this quest of places to find places that Paul went to in the New Testament, and they didn't think that synagogues existed like that. So they were saying that the Bible got it wrong, right? Well, I mean, the Bible gets a lot of stuff wrong, but they're finding out that, oh, some of these things actually existed and still exist. You just got to know where to look for them. So my point being is, my whole point is, the true message of Christianity is supposed to be love. It's not supposed to be hateful. It's not supposed to be racist. It's not supposed to be mean. It's love. And if you haven't figured that out yet, or you disagree with me, you need to take a look at your Bible again. And you need to look what Jesus says about how you treat foreigners. And you tell me, is how we're treating foreigners by sending ICE after everybody, these burly guys who most of them are like uh, the majority of the people who are working for ICE now, maybe not before, but are Proud Boys. They're neo Nazis. They're getting a kick out of what this is what I don't understand. Okay, this is a question. Okay, they're supposed to be federal agents, right? Would we put up with the FBI beating the crap out of everybody? No, but the thing is that even the people that say that they're not for that, if you're okay with ICE doing police brutality, then you have a bit of a racism to you. You have a little bit of racism there, at least a little bit, because you're afraid of the other. You hate them because they're this, or you hate them because they're that. Oh, they're illegal immigrants. We just hate illegal immigrants. Really? Because people like Nick Fuentes and other people, Nick Fuentes, he's a white man, which means he's from Spain since he's Spanish. Well, he's not from Spain. His family is Spanish, white Spanish, but he's from a foreign country. Like most of us are, he's not from a foreign country, but his family is. Most of us have families, unless we're Native American from other countries, and then some of us have both. I have, I'm an eighth Seminole Native American, but I'm mostly white. A lot of my ancestry comes from foreign countries like England and Germany and places like that, right? So it's foreigners. So why are you so hateful of foreigners? And if you're when you're they say they start off because I think it's okay if they're illegal. But then if you really get to the people that really hate illegal immigrants, they don't like legal immigrants either. And that's why Trump is going after legal immigration and trying to end that too. They don't like anybody from other places or anything or that. They're weird. It's weird that you're hateful for anybody who migrates, no matter what. And even if they did come here illegal, it's not really that kind of a crime, like a real crime. I mean, passed, they crossed a imaginary line for a better life, and you think you get to brutalize them and grab them and throw them in concentration camps? Do you call yourself a Christian? If you are a Christian, this is the main thing because I'm disgusted by the way Christians are looking. In. I'm not a traditional Christian. I, I, I don't really 100% believe in everything in the Bible or believe that it's the Word of God or anything. But I was brought up Catholic, so I still have that where I know the teachings of Jesus and I admired Jesus growing up, looking at the things that he said and the things that he did and how he changed things by he was one of the first people to try to bring dialogue between groups of people that didn't quite like each other. So he was like Jesus, if you want to take away all the supernatural stuff and say, okay, and say we for sure that Jesus was a real person, okay? Say Jesus is a real person, and you take everything around him. Jesus was basically a, a for a need to describe it. I know they didn't have liberals back then or anything, but he was basically like the liberal debate bro, the loving liberal debate bro who wants hippie guy who wants everybody to get along. So you want to look at Jesus and look at what he debated, his debate, him being a debate bro. So you're into debate bros. Well, Jesus is the original debate bro. And if the people, original Christian debate bro, and if you want to look at these other debate bros and say they're Christian, then they better meet the standards of Christ. They better not be racist or xenophobic or all of these things. These are things that Jesus would detest. So let's take a look at the word Christian. And I never get into Christianity. I don't like debating this stuff or anything like that. And I don't like trying to put like Christians down a lot because I mean, somewhat of a Christian. I have different beliefs, and I don't think Jesus was God or the Son of God, and I'm not even sure that he existed. But if we look at, say, the character of Jesus, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful thing, I'm saying because we don't haven't proved they haven't proven that there's no mention of Jesus outside religious texts. So it doesn't mean he didn't exist. We don't know that, but I'm sure even if we proved that he's right, we couldn't prove that he was anything other than a person who loved people and wanted people to get along. And he he was he was a peacenik. Man, you think about it. Jesus lived in a time where they were occupied by the Romans, and a lot of the Jews wanted to rebel, and Jesus was trying to calm them down and try to tell them, look, you're not going to win if you do that. That's not good. All that's going to bring upon us is misfortune. And they hated him for that. They hated him because he didn't hate. They hated him because, okay, you can say, well, maybe he hated the Pharisees, but I don't think it's really a thing of hate, as you had a Palestinian Jew of the first century who's very much into his culture and his religion, and he sees what's wrong with his culture, the warlikeness of it, and he tries to get in there and he tries to calm it down, and he speaks out against people still though. So I can say we should get along and we should do this, but I still should be able to call out shit when I see it. When I see a president and the people who are enabling him doing stuff that's out of the fascist playbook, I'm gonna say that, and trying to blame people for pointing out how things are, not in any kind of racist or any way, but seeing that from a historical standpoint, that the MAGA Republicans, the politicians, the MAGA politicians, they're basing everything on hate, and they're trying to spread all this hatred, and man, and trying to wrap it in the blanket of Christianity the same way the Ku Klux Klan did. You had these guys running around in sheets killing people and threatening people and scaring black people simply because they were black, and they went to church the next day, and they were mayors, and they were all these people who were supposed to be these good Christian people, and they were evil. And they were evil because their hearts were full of hate, and they tried to, and that type of Christianity is what's trying to spread, and what's spreading into Protestantism as like a cancer. From things that I'm hearing is that it's becoming mainstream. Racist, hateful Christianity should not be mainstream. What should be mainstream is the true Christianity, the Christians, the small Christs, the little Christs, which means if you call yourself a Christian, you need to try to live. You're gonna fall. You're gonna fall a lot of times. But you gotta try. You gotta try to get better and try to be nicer and try to get along with people more and try to learn how to have disagreements without getting mad, and I'm one of those people that gets mad in disagreements. But a lot of the things that make me upset and with is when I've got facts behind me and I'm telling these people this, and then they're gaslighting themselves and me by saying my facts are wrong when I could look them up, and no matter how many, this is the thing with people that are hateful and people that they want to just believe what they want to believe, that are not going to look at both sides. And I look up stuff. I mean, I sometimes try to watch Fox News stuff just to get what their side is saying, and I just can't do that for very long or very often because it's just disgusting. It's just disgusting. They're calling, people on Fox News are basically calling for the a civil war and killing liberals because they thought that a liberal killed their race's savior. And he wasn't a savior, he was a bad person. He should have never been killed, because political violence like that, it's like That's the same reason Jesus was killed, was over politics. Jesus was a victim of political assassination. So, if we're going to be Christ-like, fuck this shit of killing people, of assassinating people, and hell with this thing of we're going to go kill them. Well, wait a second. One person did this. One person committed the crime. One person committed murder. And that person is going to be held accountable. You don't blame everybody in the political party, or even not even that, just everybody who's liberal, because not all liberals are Democrats. Saying that it's all their fault and you're going to kill them all. That's bullshit. And I'm sorry, that's when it starts to go beyond that. This is where you can start arresting people, because the minute you start threatening violence, you make terrorist threats, that becomes a crime. That becomes a crime. Okay, so I'm running really long. um, I'm tired of holding this phone. I just I'll try to start doing stuff on my computer more. I just hate setting it up. Maybe I can clean it up more and try to find a way to set up my microphone where it's not in the way when I'm not doing my shows, because setting it up and thing makes me not even want to do it. But then I'm at the same time I'm holding up this phone forever and my arms getting tired. But anyways, this is my whole point, is that we can both be compassionate about the fact that a human being was killed, even if we don't like that human being, even if we didn't like what he had to say, even if we think he's a total piece of shit. Well, that piece of shit has the right to live. And instead of killing people that in like this guy, obviously we're seeming to see that he was conservative, most likely, probably more libertarian, because obviously he had a trans girlfriend. So um he's probably more towards the progressive side as you can get, as far as um Republicans seem to go, or conservatives seem to go. But you got this guy who did not kill him because he had even a complete different view. I mean, the killer has similar ideas. If the things I heard are true, and that he's a Nick Fuentes fan, well, then he agrees with a lot of stuff that Charlie Kirk does. He, but there's, but he didn't like certain things, and he killed them for it. And that's the whole thing. Yeah, is there political violence on the left? Yes, but it's few and far between. Is there? Where is the majority of the political violence? On the right, and it always has been. Um, I mean, you go to Nazi Germany, fascism, Nazism was a far right ideology. So, like, the far right has never been good people. I'm not saying there aren't good people in it, but the people that's it seems like the further right you go, the more totalitarian you go. And it might be the same thing if you go far enough left. I don't know, man. They're both wings of the same bird. But this is what I'm gonna leave you with, is we can disagree with people and try to be civil. Of course, there will be people getting angry sometimes, and not, and maybe a little yelling or whatnot. But try to keep that to the lowest. Don't if it descends into like name calling, just quit. Just stop talking to the person. And that's what I'm trying to learn. And I'm trying to learn to like deal with the fact that I'm going to talk to people that have opinions that aren't based on evidence, that they're just buying like the what the mainstream tells us. But this is what I'm telling you. Especially you think you're a Christian. Well, if you're a Christian, you can't put people like Charlie Kirk up on a pedestal. He was not a nice guy. He didn't deserve to die. He deserved to live like everybody else does. He he yes, was he hurting people? No. Was he spreading an ideology that was hurting people? Yes, he was. But this is the thing. We've got to be able to at least exist somewhat civilly. We can't go around, and this is on both sides. We can't go around just killing people. Like in this case, it's just having a little tiny bit of a difference of politics. Like we're not even talking about from one side to the other, but there's people that if someone they disagree with someone just a little bit, they think it's okay to get on a rooftop and kill them, and that's not cool. But neither is pumping up a guy and putting a guy on a pedestal who is the antithesis of what a Christian should be. And what do you know what a Christian should be? Well, because I was raised Catholic, and it's it's well, it's not Christian. Yeah, it is. And you can say you're Protestant or whatever, but where do you think Protestantism comes from? They were Protestants because they protested against the certain things in the Catholicism. That's why you had Martin Luther, and he broke off from Catholicism. But you know Christianity through the lens of Catholicism, whether you know it or not. So a lot of the values are exactly the same. There's a few differences, and you get that in denominations, anyways. But I was raised the Jesus I heard about in church and I read about in the Bible was a forgiving, loving person who tried his best to help to get along with people. And yes, but he still had the cojones to call out wrong when he saw wrong. And so he wasn't that nice to the Pharisees that much, but the Pharisees had sold out the Jews to the Hebrew people, the Jewish Hebrew people. They they sold them out. Their political and religious leaders sold them out to the Romans so they could be cushy and live a life of luxury. So they sold out their own people. So Jesus was calling them out. So we can both have compassion, we can be civil, and we can do these things, and we can still call out wrong where we see it and not be saying that because we see fascism and we're looking at it from a historical lens. We see some things that are being done right now and nowadays that are going towards fascism and trying to blame us for someone's murder because we're calling out fascism where we see it. So this is the thing, man. This is the thing. Let's try to get along. Let's not kill each other, but let's still not let people take somebody who was not a nice person and put him up on a pedestal like he was a good Christian because he was not. We don't need to, because he's dead, to put him on a pedestal. And he is the antithesis of Christianity. If you are a Christian and you're okay with these racist, xenophobic, homophobic views, you're not, I'm sorry, you're not a real Christian, buddy. Christianity is about love. So if you're going to be a Christian and you're going to call yourself a Christian, act like Christians and follow people who actually act like Christ would act. And all you got, this is the problem, is that people, a lot of us who are Christians, Catholics, or whatever, a lot of us, except for a part here or there, never really read the Bible. I still haven't read it all the way through. I'm going to admit that. I read the whole New Testament, and I've read a little bit of the Old Testament. Old Testament, some of it's hard to get through. I'll have to get through it eventually. But I'm saying is we got to, and when you read it, you can't just follow it blindly. You have to look at the times that each book of the Bible, because it's a collection of books, was written and how their society and their culture was at the time, and know that there's bad things in it because that's just, you know, it was a long time ago and the world has always been men at the top, straight men at the top who make all the rules and call all the shots. So there's things that are based on that, and you need to take it in its historical and cultural context. That being said, okay, so I just think it's getting scary as a nation when one political group, because they're mad about someone they made a hero out of, wants to kill everybody on one political side because one person committed um, a crime. One person did this. And I'm sorry, there ain't no revenge in Christian. There ain't no revenge in the word Christian. There ain't no revenge in Christianity. Oh, you can pull out the eye for an eye thing, but that was the Old Testament, and that's not what Jesus preached. Jesus did not preach for eye for an eye, man. But I believe it's Gandhi who said, eye for an eye will leave everybody blind. And there's some things that weren't too savory about Gandhi, but he, in a lot of ways, was a great man, but he wasn't perfect. And there were some things I didn't like about him because he was upper caste. He was kind of prejudiced against lower caste people, and he was a staunch um, proponent of the caste system. Well, anyways, this was just a message I was trying to get out there. I know no one's gonna watch this past like 2 minutes because no one can watch more than 2 minute videos anymore. But anyways, I just really think that I had to bring this up and I had to talk about us getting along more, but not without calling out wrong when we see wrong. All right, guys, this has been a long episode. I'll see you guys later. Hang in there.